Hi, this is the story The Magic Wings. It's a folk tale from China, and you'll see it has parts of it that repeat over and over again with each character. You're going to catch on to this pretty fast. But here's the story. Once upon a time in the land of China, there lived a little girl who was very, very poor. She was so poor, and it was so sad because her mom and dad didn't get the proper medicine, and they were both very sick, and they had to send this little girl away to live with other relatives. They loved her so much, and her aunt and her uncle loved her so much. They lived in the countryside on a farm, and they asked if they could please take care of her. When the little girl got to the farm, she was so excited because she loved all living things, people, animals, any growing plant. And her aunt and uncle asked her if she would please be their goose girl. And they explained that she would be the one to take care of the geese by leading them out of their yard in the morning and walking them up into the hills where they could nibble on little bits of grass. They would get their drink at the brook up there. And then at the end of the day, her job was to lead them back into their little yard where she would close the little gate. They told her that the geese would follow her in a line like a parade. They would line up single file behind her. And she had so much fun being the goose girl. She used to take them for parades. She just loved them. She could tell each one apart. She had names for each of them. It was one time in the early spring when there was a heavy rainfall during the night. And when the goose girl went out to go get the geese to bring them up into the hillside, she had to be really careful. The mud was so thick. It was squishy, squashy, mushy, squooshy, oofy poofy. And her sandals were getting stuck in the mud. She had to be careful how she lifted them. She went out there, she unlocked their gate, and those geese with their little flat feet could do just fine in the mud. But she had to keep watching her feet. She led those geese in that single file line up into the hillside. And as she was watching her feet so carefully, she noticed little bits of color coming out of the ground. Because the ground was so wet from the rain, and because it was that particular time of year, those first flowers of spring were coming up just then. The little crocuses, there they were. When she saw the colors, she said, "Oh, hello." Each little blossom, she bent over, "Hello." And she'd run that way, "Hello." And she'd run that way, "Hello." And the geese were following behind her as she was running along. She was so happy to be seeing the first flowers of spring. Just then, one of her geese, it flapped its wings and it rose into the air a little bit. And that was when she had an idea. She had the seed, an idea, and she decided to water that seed by taking some water from the brook, cupping her hands, putting water on one shoulder where her wings could be, and taking water for her other shoulder where her wings could be. And she stood straight and tall in a sunny place, and she began to flap her arms, wishing that she could grow wings so she could fly over the countryside and greet the spring. Well, it just so happened that the grocer's daughter had decided to take a shortcut home. The grocer's daughter at this particular time in her life was a bully. She didn't stay a bully, but right now, as these two were about to meet, she was a bit of a bully. So when she saw the little goose girl out there flapping her wings, the grocer's daughter, who was returning to her father's grocery store in the middle of their little village, she went right up to that little goose girl and she said, "What are you doing?" And the little goose girl, she said, "I'm growing." Grocer's daughter said, "Growing what?" And the goose girl said, "Wings." And the grocer's daughter rolled her eyes and said, "You can't do that." And the little goose girl explained, "Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. You see, I put some water on my shoulders, and I'm standing straight and tall in a sunny place, and I'm going to grow wings so I can fly over the countryside and greet the spring." The grocer's daughter said, "I don't believe it." But on her way home, she thought about it, and she thought, if the goose girl can grow wings, surely the grocer's daughter can grow wings, and I ought to get mine first. The grocer's daughter went to her father's grocery store, and she grabbed a bucket, and she poured some of the milk that her father had in his shop into the bucket. And she took it outside in front of the shop, and she put milk instead of water on one shoulder, and milk instead of water on her other shoulder. And she stood straight and tall, and she began to flap her arms when the judge's daughter was walking past. And the judge's daughter said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And the grocer's daughter said, "Growing." And the judge's daughter said, "Growing what?" And the grocer's daughter said, "Wings." And the judge's daughter said, "You can't do that." And the grocer's daughter said, "Oh, yes, I can. I can do it because, hey, the goose girl, she's out on the hillside trying to grow her wings, but she only used water. I used milk. I'm going to get my wings first." And the judge's daughter said, "I don't believe that." And she walked away. But as she walked away, she thought to herself, if the goose girl can grow wings, and if the grocer's daughter can grow wings, surely I, the judge's daughter, can grow wings. And I'm going to get my wings first. I'm going to use... And she took from her house some juice, and she poured juice into a bowl. And she put juice on one of her shoulders, and she put juice on her other shoulder, and she stood tall and straight in the sun up on her balcony, and she began to flap her arms. When the princess was walking by with all of the people who attend the princess, and the princess saw the judge's daughter up there on her balcony flapping her arms. And the princess said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And the judge's daughter said, "Oh, Your Majesty, I'm growing wings." And the princess said, "You can't do that." And the judge's daughter said, "Oh, yes, I can. You see, I've put some juice on my shoulders, and I'm flapping, I'm standing straight and tall in a sunny place, and soon I'll grow my wings. The goose girl, she's standing out on a hillside. She only used water on her shoulders. The grocer's daughter is standing in front of the grocery shop. She only used milk on her shoulders. Your Majesty, I used juice. I'll be getting my wings first." The princess replied, "I don't believe that, but good luck to you." And the princess walked off, thinking to herself, it was her duty, it was her obligation. If the goose girl could grow wings, if the grocer's daughter could grow wings, if the judge's daughter could grow wings, surely the princess should be able to grow wings. And the princess thought she could get her wings first because she would use something better than water, better than milk, better than juice. She would use one of her finest perfumes. She chose her favorite. It was her favorite. And she put some of her favorite perfume on one of her shoulders. And she put it on her other shoulder. And then the princess herself went out to her balcony back there at the palace. And she stood straight and tall on that balcony. And she began to flap her arms until the queen saw her. When the queen saw her daughter up there on her balcony flapping her arms, the queen said, "Purple cushions, daughter, what are you doing?" And the daughter explained, "Mother, you'll be so proud. Mother, I'm growing." "My dear, you are already grown. What are you talking about?" "Mother, I'm growing wings." "Wings! Purple cushions, daughter. You can't grow wings." "Mother, please, Mother, you'll be so proud. You see, the goose girl, she put water on her shoulders, and I hear she's standing straight and tall in a sunny place flapping her arms. And the grocer's daughter, she used milk. And the judge's daughter is trying to grow her wings too, but she only used juice. And Mother, I've used perfume. I'll be getting my wings first." "Purple," she was going to say dragons, but the queen thought to herself as she left her daughter's room, her balcony, that it was her responsibility as queen to get her wings first. So the queen, she decided to go to the royal treasury, and she found the container that held the royal oil, the oil that was used to anoint kings and queens. And she used the royal oil for one shoulder, and she anointed herself. And then for her other shoulder, and she went to the very top of the palace. She went to the roof, and she started to flap her royal arms, knowing, as queen, it was her duty to get her wings. When all of the women and all of the girls saw their queen flapping her arms, and the princess, all of the women and all of the girls started to flap their arms. All of them. All of the girls and all of the women stood up. If you're standing, you can start flapping your arms. And they flapped and they flapped and they flapped, standing straight and tall in a sunny place. And the boys and the men watched. All their mothers, all their aunts, all their sisters. The boys had to come up with a plan. The women were all busy, and this went on for days. The women flapped their arms for days, hoping to grow wings like their queen, like their princess. They were flapping and flapping, and the boys, they needed a plan. They held a meeting, the boys and the men, and they decided to go out and try to talk to their relatives. "Mother," they called. "Mom, sister, grandma, auntie." But no, the women didn't listen. So then they called out in one great voice to the spirit who gives wings. They said, and say it after me, "Oh, great spirit, spirit who gives wings, please, 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 give somebody some wings. We need our mothers. We need our sisters. We need our grandmothers. We need our aunties. Please give somebody some wings." And then they saw it. It appeared high in the sky, but unmistakably, it was the great spirit who gives wings. They could see it coming down. It was unbelievable. There it was, and it was going around the queen, but it didn't stay. It went to the princess because she smelled so good, but it didn't stay. It went to the judge's daughter. It went to the grocer's daughter. But when the great spirit who gives wings got to that little goose girl with that pure wish, the great spirit who gives wings gave that little goose girl her wings, and a great blast of air pushed her up, 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 above the crowds of women and boys and men and girls, and she called out, "Hello, hello, hello." She greeted the spring in style. And that's the story, The Magic Wings. And because it's a folk tale and it repeats so many times, I bet you have it memorized. Thanks.